Hello all, welcome to the Lunar Sea Spire Cartoon Fan Podcast. This is episode 343, and today we'll be talking about adventures in pet training from GlitchTex. I'm GC13.
And I'm David.
So 343, we finally arrived at Halo's number.
And we've also arrived at more mind games, or deeply concerning philosophical questions for GlitchTex.
Oh, okay, when you said mind games, I thought you were about to talk about how Emma staged the tech glitching out on them, and it's like, why is it so believable that her program would glitch out that nobody even stops to think how convenient it is for a training exercise?
It's very questionable as to what's planned and what's not when you're dealing with this type of person. Emma reminded me a bit of I guess you could call her a mad scientist in Hilda, who, has questionable morality. Emma is not seemingly ever malicious, but she's just so nice,
She does remind me of Vangaal, yes.
Yes, because of that, they're not ever outwardly evil.
The absent-minded super genius.
Right, they're just way too smart for their own good and make choices on people's behalves, right? Like, Five had no intent of going into the VR space, and yet, Emma had a different plan, and therefore that is what happened. And maybe Emma's right, but...
Oh, but are you sad he did?
No, I'm not sad he did. I just, Emma is at a level of intelligence that she doesn't believe consent matters for her decisions, And that's very much how Vangaal operated.
I'm assuming that's 20,000 free XP Five got. I don't think he had to pay XP for Alpha.
Man, did they gain EXP in the real world, or is that just in the simulation? He was getting EXP outside.
Well, he lost it all when he got hit by the ball pit ball.
Right. Don't know how that score system's calculated. Yeah, Hinobi's got their whole EXP system, but how are they calculating it? Did he take actual physical damage? And they calculate, the amount of his pain? Also, can they calculate the amount of pain he has because they have an interface direct to his brain?
I think it was the triumph, each ball was like a little bit of, oh, look how good I am, and then just the humiliation. He lost it all when he got hit by the last one, so.
Is the arm cuff detecting, blood pressure,
gauntlet,
heart rate?
It's called a gauntlet.
The gauntlets. Are those hooked in biologically into their systems in a way that reflects EXP?
If you go with my conspiracy theory that the world in GlitchTex is all just a simulation anyway, that would mean that somebody like Hinobi, who's found a way to hack into the system like they have, would probably have direct access to all of his vitals, so...
That's a conspiracy theory right there. Wow.
It's mine. It is my conspiracy theory. The company will tell you that the Plixels are all robots. I disagree.
I think that's great thinking about how Five is trying to think through, or help Miko think through, her relationship with her pet because, they're simply programs, he says. Deeply disturbing. That would become much more deeply disturbing if it turned out, everyone is simply a program. But what is a program and what is identity? Fun times.
A miserable pile of secrets.
Well, maybe they're not humans. Maybe they are literally an emergent property of a miserable pile of secrets that is Hinobi's secret experiment. Very wild. I've been reading a lot of sci-fi books recently about brain interfaces and robotic human transfer and cloning, and so this is all very deeply interesting to me.
Oh, so we hit you with this episode at exactly the right time in your life, huh?
Yes, I was literally listening to, oh my gosh, great book series, Bobaverse. First book, We Are Legion, about a guy that ends up being replicated in von Neumann probes, which are self-replicating probes in space, right? But it's very disturbing philosophically for him, right? Because he's just fully machine, and he's not even sure if he's the brain that he was copied from, and his copies definitely aren't him or the brain he was copied from. It's all very weird, and I was thinking about that as both Five and Miko were transported into a digital realm, because I was like, how does this work again? How does this digital... Do their bodies cease to exist? Purely exist? Their consciousness purely exists digitally, and then when they come out of a portal, Hinobi is recreating their physical form again? Did they actually create a pocket dimension that their bodies exist in, which is also digital? What is going on?
Now you're just getting into the transporter as a machine of mass murder debate from Star Trek, asking philosophically if the transporter kills you and then creates a new you with your memories.
Right. I mean, if consciousness is merely an emergent property of, a complex system, that self-thinking system, then, maybe it's, you is not even an important idea. If there's no carryover of, whatever, if you think identity is captured in soul or something. But, we don't have time to stop for those questions in Adventures in Pet Training because we need to learn simpler lessons, like how to listen to a pet. And also, it's kind of interesting to think about real-life pets as sort of programs or not, and if your relationship with them is really something that you form in your own head and heart instead of, in reality. If you want, I don't know if that's bleak sounding, but, it kind of has a real world analog. Like, here's this much simpler thing than me, but is calling something merely a program or an animal really different enough? Or, whatever relationship I form with them, is it the same as, is it just as real as my Nintendo or my, Tamagotchi?
At least with a pet, like a cat or a dog, the cats are operating on functionally the same hardware as a human. We have a more advanced version of the hardware, but it's really hard to deny the reality of their intelligence when they have brains made of meat just like we do.
Right, and the same apparent experiences of pain and pleasure, and so, you kind of don't want, if you don't feed your Nintendo, there's no moral qualm. But in this episode, we're only focused on the idea of what it means to have a relationship with a program versus what it means to neglect a program per se, because obviously that is terrifying. Don't view your real world relationship with pets as only a computer because, it's mean to hurt animals. That's a terrible thing to do.
I will say this though, Miko was kind of neglecting Allie with her not feeding her the correct foods, and all because 9 pages is so much to read.
No, but Miko didn't know about the manual, and now she will read it. The things she'll do, right, for Allie.
Yeah, it's like Vin Diesel, the things I'm going to do for my country.
Read 9 pages of the manual. But, I don't know. Somewhere in the midpoint of the episode, I was thinking, did Miko really have a listening problem before with Allie? I don't know if either of them really had a problem. I feel like Emma diagnosed something that wasn't that extreme. Like, Allie just seems to be having problems, and yeah, Miko doesn't know how to solve them, but, I mean, how would you? It's a completely... Well, I guess maybe you can be an expert of these avian creatures from games, but...
Yeah, I mean, what Miko learned from that was really not very much. All she basically learned is, Allie does actually have specific things that help her when she eats. I think that simulation was actually more for 5, to be honest.
Yes, 5 gets a mini Iron Giant story, which, halfway, once he started, I was like, oh, this is kind of Iron Giant, he's making friends with a big robot. But then they actually Iron Gianted it at the end because, self-sacrifice while, hurtling into the sky.
Now, you say...
Okay, he does hurtle back downwards.
I cannot watch that scene and not think of Wreck-It Ralph. They might have actually explicitly said it was a reference to that part near the end of Wreck-It Ralph, but I mean, whether they explicitly said it or not, it is. It is definitely a reference to Wreck-It Ralph.
I am not familiar with that scene. What does Ralph do? Ralph does some big self-sacrifice?
Oh, that's the one where he knocks the Mentos down into the soda volcano to take care of the evil boss.
But he lives.
Well, he has a little help. He would have sacrificed himself had somebody not come to his rescue.
Meanwhile, I guess that Alpha lived, or at least Emma suggests that instead of it being a copy, the Alpha that gets brought into the real world is the same Alpha. But what does that even mean with bits and bytes? Oh, you copied over the same memory file? But you could just copy and paste it. Again, that's where the cloning stuff... I'm just listening to a book about cloning and is it the same identity today? And now I get presented with, what happens if you clone Allie or Alpha? what does that mean? If you had a backup of them and it's the same memory set, starting from that point, it is them, right?
Oh, you would like the later chapters of Schlock Mercenary. They get into that.
It's an interesting idea, but it's also one that I feel like I have a personal answer to, which is they are functionally separate consciousnesses, but only insofar as if you only describe consciousness as, the set of memories and then the emergent property of whatever, self-observation, and then building on those memories. But yeah, it's weird, because also it seems like copies equal bad here, which is kind of like, well, not exactly like Infinity Train. We talked a little bit about season 1 before, that just making up the world inside of the train that Amelia did wasn't necessarily just about like trying to clone things as inherently bad, because other things in the train that just exist but are fake, that are nulls, are still humanized. But I guess we're taking a stance here that clone equals bad.
This episode never said that a copy or a clone is bad. What it was trying to say, what I thought it said pretty clearly actually, is that, it's not, I have a chickie chum. It is, I have Allie. And if you take away Allie and give me another chickie chum, I have a noticeably different pet now. Just like with 5, he didn't want an alpha mech. He wanted the alpha he had formed an attachment to, a relationship with. He unlocked a friendship, for crying out loud.
But the question is it really different? Like, you could tell me, oh, this is my childhood Game Boy. I played with this Game Boy as a kid. But if you gave me an identical Game Boy, and I had no idea, I mean, should I really be disappointed if I found out that it was a, physically different one later? Like, I formed this childhood attachment to this thing that I have this relationship with.
Let's try it this way, David. Would you like to wear a brand new wristwatch?
Brand new?
Let's say not brand new.
I have a great emotional attachment to this Game Boy, and now we're bringing in wristwatches, of which I will quickly discard of.
Let's say I have a wristwatch that you've decided you want to use, right? And so if you want to use it, you'll take the wristwatch I give you. But what if before I give it to you, I told you, oh yeah, this used to belong to a serial killer, and he wore it on the day he was executed.
Right. Now this is
obviously you don't want the watch anymore.
Well, yeah, and this is a slightly different property which has a name, but essentially we humans assign.
It's called sympathetic magic.
Yeah, like we assign these sort of spirit ideas to things. So like that's why we're like, this t-shirt was worn by this rock star. Now it's valuable, even though it's just the same t-shirt as any other t-shirt.
But again, that's not what's happening with Allie. The whole point is, Allie is her own person, and that is valuable in itself. Alpha is his own person, and, he may have a lot of identical twin brothers, but he himself is unique because he is the only Alpha.
Perhaps, unless you just copy him and never boot up the other one. Except, what even is it to boot or not boot? Like, if I have Microsoft Word on my computer, and I make a copy of the executable and then delete the old executable, I'm not going to feel like the copy of the executable is really even identity different. It's going to feel like, essentially, I just moved the file. And actually, every file you have on your computer, if you move it, is a reassignment of bits from one place on the hard drive to somewhere else, potentially, right? Well, depending on the file scheme. So, I mean, even the idea of that.
You would infuriate Emma so much.
I know, she wants me to believe in these entities being real, and I love it. I love that Glitch Text has this weird little undercurrent of programs and their reality. So fun.
Again, at no point did she get into the whole, what if I make a copy of Allie? No, it's like, what if I give you another chickie chum? What if I give you another alpha mech? Not what if I made you a copy of Alpha. You want it to be about something else.
That's true. Maybe it's like a Sesame Street version of, I'm going to talk about ideas about death. But for a 4-year-old's perspective, it's just that, I lost, the person who bought me ice cream. It's just a simplified idea of like, I like my chickie chum. And that's the one I want, I don't know.
You see, I like Emma. I mean, she was based off of Kate McKinnon's character from the 2016 Ghostbusters, and it shows, and I love both of the characters, so...
Now, this is super fascinating that we're talking about... I'm feeling like an old man now. Like that two of the inspirations for this episode so far are things that happened in the past 10 years, which is just weird to me. Like Wreck-It Ralph and the rebooted Ghostbusters. I feel so old.
And now those are into the cultural zeitgeist to the point where there can be references to them now.
Right, in a show that like would take years to, develop the episodes. Oh, that's so weird to me. Also, though, an older school reference. We got a Grimer/Muck fight at the end.
Yeah, I cannot not see Muck whenever they have that fight.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, not the most inspired monster design. Pretty much, well, or maybe perhaps the most directly inspired, depending on what inspired means to you.
It's like Miko said, let's make this quick, Allie. They only had so much time to come up with a boss fight, so they needed somebody they needed to be able to look like they were hurting it while also not actually hurting it, and thus Sludge Monster. It makes perfect sense.
Sludge Monster works. Well, and I really like the robot enemies in this episode, so I thought those were a cool little unique design.
I loved their all-day dance party at the Mesa Top.
Yeah,
so.
What was that all about? They got their own little lives going on in this simulation. Again, disturbing me when we have to fight them.
Yeah, they're okay with it, I think.
Probably. It's like in Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
You could watch the bokoblins from a distance and they'd be dancing around a fire and just kind of hanging out, living life. And then you walk up to them and, of course, they're basically wild animals. They have to attack you, but if you had just left them alone, they could have just had a happy little lives. They'll never even attack anyone. They'll just stay in place forever.
I did like, though, when Emma handed Five that little baby whatever and, don't stop showering it with food, love, and Hinobi gossip. And I'm like, I thought it was a missed opportunity that at no point did Five turn to that and say, oh, did you hear what such and such said about somebody else? Or literally any piece of Hinobi gossip would have been beautiful if he had actually followed through on that.
I can't even think of, how did he not end up holding onto the baby into the simulation? Did he put it on the ground? Where did the baby go?
Emma got disgusted with him, grabbed it, and let it go, and it floated off.
Oh, okay.
It did not get atomized upon the portaling.
Right, Save for later. So Allie's going to have a bunch of new powers now, I guess, if the power-ups are going to be available. That was a tease at the end. That
is the tragedy of Darth Emma the Wise. She, said, just wait till you see what all of these do. And we never see what all these do.
What? How on earth? Like,
very sad.
It even fades to black in a way that feels like it would then come up with the white text to be continued,
I know. Very sad. Very sad.
That's actually pretty weird, because this isn't early enough. This is only episode 8. Why would they introduce that?
Yep. Well, don't know. We have 11 more episodes, and we don't get any more chickie chum powers that I am getting off the top of my head. Although I did promise you, going back to the last time we discussed glitch techs, I did promise you that there would be a glitch entity in this episode who would make you rethink your pro-glitch, quote-unquote, humanity stance. Zoom Kazoom. What do you think now?
Because of just how annoying Zoom Kazoom is?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Did they even ever... Oh, right. Mitch captured the glitch, of course, because Mitch.
Yep.
I don't think that makes me want to hurt it. It was kind of just being silly. Why do you hate him so much?
He's just the most annoying little thing I've ever seen.
Look, he
deserves Mitch.
I endured, the first season of Steven, and poor Steven, everyone thought he was annoying too. Maybe I'm revealing a personal character trait here. As someone who, now I'm speaking personally, as someone who had problems with being perceived as annoying, now you have me sympathizing with this character that you hate. Look, he's just a program. He's simply a program. He can't help it.
Maybe he can't. But remember, all the glitches who do bad things can't help it either.
It's just their programming.
Well, I like Allie, though. Allie's nice. All the companions are pretty chill.
Yeah. I wonder how... I mean, obviously, just like actual animals with stratified intelligence, the glitches have stratified intelligences. But, I don't know. Allie's in the range of like Appa. Can clearly understand some human language and whatever, but also will just go into animal mode at any time to eat random balls or whatever.
Random power-ups and ball pit balls.
And ball pit balls. I love the reoccurrence of ball pits because of the, being in the arcade. Pit! I just somebody enjoyed a lot of time in ball pits as a kid and on the squad, and I appreciate that.
Hey, great way to get free tokens. Anyway, guys, that's been us on Adventures in Pet Training. Join us next week. Until then, I'm GC13.
And I'm David. Don't forget to leave us a review anywhere you listen to podcasts. And don't feel bad if you just clone someone else's.
Later, everybody. Our opening and closing music is by Mark Soto. For more cartoon-related content, please visit lunarseaspire.com.